Hi again, everybody, and welcome to Inside Golf, presented by Susquehanna Bank and Wealth Management. Well, it's beginning to look a lot like the holidays, right? And this time of the year, you're always searching for maybe a special gift for somebody, a golfer, that would help them with their game. How about the latest from Bob Rotella? Bob is one of the more famous sports psychologists, especially his work with golfers. And the book is called The Unstoppable Golfer, Trusting Your Mind and Your Short Game to Achieve Greatness. Now, maybe you won't achieve greatness, but maybe you will cut a few strokes off your game. And here to talk about, well, the mental part of the game, as well as how he incorporates it with his clients, is Bob Shepherd. Bob, good to see you again.
Nice to see you, Harry. Always a pleasure.
Bob, of course, no stranger to Inside Golf. In fact, we'll be seeing Bob on one of our teed-off panels coming up a little bit later on in the show. But, Bob, you're a longtime golf professional in the Philadelphia area. You're kind of taking a winter hiatus from your work up at Five Ponds, where you give private instructions. But what about Bob Rotella, and specifically when you're dealing with clients, the mental part of the game? How do you incorporate the thinking part of the game vis-a-vis the mechanics of the game?
Yeah, the mechanics of the game in golf, I think we all agree, has just been overdosed. We've got so much information, it's down to the finite. Now, we have to take everything into consideration and understand that the swing, anybody's swing, takes about a second to a second and a quarter. So it's like a blink. So you're not going to control a blink that easily. So I think what he's doing and what I've done in the past, you concentrate more on your target and you let your swing instinctively happen. You try to stay away from all the intricacies. Now, there is certain ones that you have to have. You have to have grip, you've got to stand to the ball correctly, and you've got to be aiming at the correct target to get some input. But once your brain knows that you want to do that, just let it happen. Let it go on its own.
Now, one thing Bob Rotella talks about is play within yourself. Don't try to be somebody you're not. And I'm sure a lot of people come to you and say, hey, I want an extra 25 yards off the tee. And, you know, they think they can get it with the driver, with the ball. What do you tell them?
Well, the thing you want to do, and I can't say this enough, is you really have to play to your strength. And the extra 25 yards might put you down into a club like an 8-iron or a 9-iron that you're not good with. So it's actually better to stay back where a 5-iron is going to be in play if that's your strong club. Now, the stories go back in the time. Jack Nicklaus was a great example. He went out and played in a major tournament, and I don't remember what hole, it was the third or fourth hole. He stood up and just hit a big boomerang hook, and the rest of the round he played with a 3-wood. So everybody said, what in the world is he hitting a 3-wood for? The course is 7,000 yards long. Well, he's playing to his strength. He didn't have the driver that day, and he went out and worked on it that night and got it straightened out. So that's what the main players should do too. If you're fighting a hook, get rid of the club. Go to the club that works and play the game that you were presented with that day. Don't try to invent one or try to fix your game on the course. You can't do it. You have to just play to your strengths.
A while back, I had a chance to go one-on-one with Bob Rotella during his appearance at White Marsh Valley Country Club. Back with Bob Rotella on Inside Golf, presented by Susquehanna Bank and Wealth Management. Inside Golf, presented by Susquehanna Bank. Susquehanna Bank, doing what counts. By Club Champion, better fit, lower scores. Now open in Ballackinwood. By Southwest Greens, the Pro Knows. And by the Philadelphia Section PGA, experts in the game and business of golf.
Defining a target, realizing a dream. Susquehanna Bank can help you get your plans off the ground. Whether you're sending kids to college or doing something special for yourself. Susquehanna's financial advisors are worth talking to. We can help you find the smartest way to borrow money and save money in the process. Susquehanna Bank, doing what counts for dreamers like you. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Here's a chance for you to get away and play some great golf at a great resort.
The Iberostar Golf Team Championship Mexico, hosted by the spectacular Iberostar Cancun Resort and Spa.
The date is February 24th to the 28th, and it's open to
teams of 2 amateurs playing a best ball format, or pro plus 3 amateurs playing in a Pro-Am division.
And it's an all-inclusive.
All your meals, premium drinks, entertainment, and fantastic golf.
For more information,
IberostarGolfResort.com.
Welcome back to Inside Golf. Our special guest is sports psychologist Bob Rotella, who, as anybody who has been up on the game of golf and other sports knows, has really worked with some elite athletes, as he said, particularly, I guess, since we're talking golf here, Bob, on the PGA Tour. I was reading over some notes, and I found it interesting. Trevor Immelman, you cite, in terms of being able to focus and not be distracted by certain things. What was 2008, coming to the 18th hole at Augusta National, was atop the leaderboard. And as you write, had to talk to his caddy as they approached the green to figure out where he stood, which meant he totally ignored the leaderboard and just focused shot to shot on that final round. And he was leading at the time by 2 shots.
Yeah, because he was walking up on the green. Brandt Snedeker shook his hand and said congratulations and said go on up. And that kind of took Trevor out of his being in the moment.
Be the lead dog going up there to the 18th.
And he's like, I wonder why he did that.
What are you talking about?
You know, so he went up on the green and marked his ball, and he looked at his caddy and said, how we doing? And his caddy said, well, you got a 2-shot lead on Tiger. And I remember Trevor told me, he said, in the future, I'm not going to ask that until I putt out, because I immediately started worrying about 4 or 5 putting. He said, I was really glad to get a 2-putt and get out of there. But it's that final line. And it's been that way for a long time. And my fun is taking young players and bringing them along, like Trevor and Sean O'Hare. I'm waiting for Sean to start winning majors. You know, a young man lives in Philadelphia, and I just love to death and has a ton of talent. But, you know, I kind of started with him and Trevor at the same time. And, and you bring them along and watch it. And recently started spending some time with Rory McIlroy, who's even younger. But it's always fun. But I go back, since we're in Philadelphia, it was probably, when did Philadelphia win, the 76ers win the world championship?
83.
Okay, won 83. I worked a lot with Mark Ivoroni.
Right.
Who ended up, I mean.
University of Virginia guy, right?
And for 2 years, he didn't make it through the tryout camps. We started working a lot, and he makes the final cut with the 76ers. And he goes to a preseason game against the Celtics, and he guarded Cornbread Maxwell. And Cornbread scored like every time down the court in the first 10 minutes. And Mark had 4 fouls, and he gets benched. And we had talked a lot about being mentally prepared to not let anything bother you, upset you, and keep your cool, and just go sit on the bench, stay confident, and just study the game and study what you're going to do and rehearse in your head what you're going to do when you get back in the game. Well, anyways, Billy Cunningham puts him back in the game with about 8-10 minutes left in the preseason game. And Mark goes in and scores about 8-10 points and plays great defense. And I'll never forget him telling me, he calls me up that night and he says, Billy Cunningham calls me in the office. And I'm scared to death he's going to tell me I'm cut. And Cunningham sits down and shakes his hand and says, congratulations, Mark. Mark's like, for what? You know, he goes, you just proved to me that you can play in the NBA.
Right.
You got your lunch handed to you, and you totally kept your composure and kept your confidence. That's what you need to play in the NBA. And Mark went on and won a ring, and then he played for
actually was
12,
a starter
years.
for,
yeah, he started for a lot of the season.
Yeah.
And
went on to coach in the NBA.
Yeah, and he's still coaching. He's with Toronto now. But
you know, sports. When you look at golf, it's an individual sport. You sweat for the whole team, and you think for the whole team. Are you more apropos for golfers than you say would be for a professional football player, baseball player, or whatever?
You know, I've worked a lot with pro baseball, particularly with pitchers and hitters. I still work with a lot of kickers in the NFL, and I've always done a lot of work in basketball because I used to coach it. And so, I mean, you know, like I work a lot with John Calipari at Kentucky now, and I've worked with him when he was at Memphis and at UMass and with the Nets, and I work with Jim Larinaga at George Mason, and that's all been a lot of fun. I work with several guys in the NBA. I mean, it's still something I like doing, and it's still very mental.
Well, for instance, what would be the idiosyncrasies that apply across the board to somebody that wants to get better, regardless of the sport?
Well, there's nothing in the world more important than confidence when you're playing at a really high level if you want to see how good you can be. So, I mean, having ridiculously high levels of confidence is really, really important. Keeping your composure would be consistent across all sports. You know, having a good routine, whether you're a kicker, a basketball player, a golfer, would be really important. You know, I think on top of that, I mean, to even go further back, you better have big ideas in your head. I think most of the people become great. They really have a vision in their head of them doing great things. And I'd say most people kind of give up on their dreams very early in life or let someone take them away from them. And the strong ones survive it. And it's hard, unless you're a child prodigy, to keep believing in your dreams and believing you're going to do something incredible with your life. But I would say that's a universal. And I think the other thing is having fun. I think as ridiculous as it sounds, you got to get to the top level and still have fun playing a game.
You know, that reminds me, every time I go out to play golf, my wife says, have fun. And I say to her, I only have fun if I play good. Yeah. Now, what's wrong with that statement?
Well, it'd be the exact opposite of everything I teach.
I figured that.
I mean, everything.
That's worth 2 sessions with you, right?
Yeah, everything we teach is that the one thing you own is your mind and your attitude. And in golf, we want the mind to control the ball, not the ball to control your mind. And that's what you'd be doing if you had fun, if the ball went where you wanted it to and went in the hole and it added up right. And I mean, that's the one thing you own when you go out there and play. And some of the time, you get the results you want. But yeah, I mean, most of my players, we're trying to focus on a process and an attitude and let results happen. We're not out there worrying about how we're doing. We're not judging how we're doing. We're not critiquing it. We're just out there playing.
Right.
And what's silly about it, in a lot of ways, is you're trying to get back to the way you played when you were a little kid, where you didn't even know it was important and you didn't think it mattered and you just played golf. And then people started telling you how talented you were and how good you could be. And then a lot of people start getting really serious and get perfectionistic and try so hard to get good that they mess it up. And so that's what we mean when you're getting out of your own way.
We'll be back with Bob Rotella as Inside Golf continues in just a moment.
At this moment, across the country, families are packing their bags for a getaway. And no matter where they end up, they'll all be home by dinner. Plan your own at playgolfamerica.com. From finding fun and affordable programs to finding advice from PGA and LPGA professionals, playgolfamerica.com has a way for you to get away. Visit today for details. playgolfamerica.com, your link to the game.
And welcome back to Inside Golf. Pleasure to have with us Bob Rotella, sports psychiatrist, right? I guess you could say, Bob, golf is a thinking man's sport, and you more than anybody are probably aware of that. How would you describe what you do?
Well, I mean, just to clear it up, I'm a sports psychologist, and my whole life has been about studying the psychology of greatness. So I'm definitely not a psychiatrist.
Okay.
I spent all of my training, instead of studying abnormality and getting people to normal functioning, I wanted to learn about people who were above normal and wanted to be great. So it's a very different body of psychology. It's psychology, but it's a totally different knowledge. And you know, I'm trying to get people in the best state of mind they can possibly be in, the best mood they could possibly be in, and catch it when it's a half an inch away from that. Because the people I work with have big time dreams and ambitions.
You were a college professor at the University of Virginia, and when did you really get jump-started into doing the things you're doing and really working with individual athletes, elite individual athletes, the kind that you work with?
Probably about 1978. I went there in '76 originally to teach halftime and coach lacrosse. And before that, I coached at the University of Connecticut for 6 years and coached basketball at the University High School. And I did that while getting my doctorate at the University of Connecticut. Sometime around '78, I started working with players, and players started winning, and just word of mouth, it kind of took off. And then in '84, I worked and traveled a lot with the Virginia basketball team the year after Ralph Sampson graduated. And we went to the Final Four with a team that no one expected much of it, and 60 Minutes put me on their show. And I don't know, word of mouth just took off pretty good from there.
Do you see yourself as though being somebody that, when does a player, let's put it this way, not rely on you all the time as a crutch and not have to call you weekly or bi-weekly to you know, sit down and have a session with you?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I certainly don't ever want anyone to rely on me as a crutch, but it's always I started off in coaching, and no one ever talks about a coach as being a crutch and the players relying on them, but they all do.
Right.
And I think everybody out there needs a support system. They need someone who believes in them and is going to be encouraging and supportive of what they're doing and teach them the stuff they need to learn. And You know, I think my guys and gals have won 56 majors or so at this point. So I've been around it a lot. I've had a lot of people do a lot of neat things. And at that point, you have a pretty clear picture of what you have to do to get better. And you've seen a lot of guys and gals who got worse instead of getting better. And to a large extent, you're sharing that with a lot of guys and gals. And it's a lot of fun, and you build some great relationships. But certainly, you know, I see them every few weeks or so for an hour or so. We talk on the phone some, but I mean, I certainly realize all of these guys could play before they met me. But, you know, we're trying to keep them going in the right direction.
And there's stages, I guess, too. Some are a little more advanced. Some catch on a little bit faster than others, like anything else.
I think you could find every combination of that. I mean, you would see people just go right there and then fall on their head and start all over again.
Right.
You've seen some that go to the top and just stay there and have a ball with it. I mean, you see all kinds of up and downs, but most players, it's a very limited number of weeks where they're just playing. You know, I've had the chance to work with a lot of great basketball players. I mean, I've spent time with LeBron James, Derrick Rose, and a lot of other guys, and it's always fascinating. But they're all the same in that they've had a dream since they were a little kid of doing something really fabulous, and they're on a mission to do it, and somewhere along the line they kind of get stuck, and they have someone that they can be really honest with. I mean, we don't ever talk about anything weird or strange. I mean, everything we're talking about is confidence, concentration, composure, commitment, how to practice, how to prepare, you know, how to get ready. And a lot of them have, you know, they want it so badly that it's easy to try too hard and care too much, and they get in their own way, and you have to learn to get out of your way.
You have it all figured out, though, right? Everybody would love to have the mental approach that you have, or at least is that what players look at you for and say, you have answers that I need?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're very comfortable in knowing what the players need to do. That doesn't mean it's not still a challenge to do it or to get them to do it.
And get the ball
I'm still
in the
trying
hole.
to get better at getting them to do it. They're still trying to get better at doing it. But yeah, ultimately it is all about getting the ball in the hole. And when you play really well, you do that really nicely.
All right, pleasure. Thank you very
Good
much
meeting
for
you.
joining
Good
us.
talking to
That was a great time I spent with Bob Rotella. You know, the interesting thing about Rotella, though, he supposedly talks about the mental approach to the game. But what he's saying, both in the book and I think you picked it up in the interview, is to, you know, go unconscious. Don't think, don't overthink, because if you think too much, you can't get out of your own way.
True, true.
So he's saying the best mental part of the game is keep the mental part out.
Stay out of it, yeah, yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's unbelievable. When I played many tours years ago, we used to talk about what we called the UPI blues. And you'd be cruising along, having a nice day, and all of a sudden you'd start saying, boy, what am I going to say to Joan London in the morning after this tournament victory? And the next thing you know, you'd be in the locker room and you'd be in third place. So the trick is to stay in the moment, make sure you're concentrating on the next shot, and don't worry about the final outcome until it's time.
He's big on routine, and as he mentions constantly in this book, focusing on the target. He says a lot of the good players, when they take their practice swings, they don't even look at the ball. And the last thing that they're thinking about are swing thoughts.
True.
It's
true.
about getting almost unconscious and being in the zone. That's the only word, when you hear that description of being in the zone, regardless of the sport, he says the closest thing in the vocabulary is unconscious.
Yes, exactly true. Then again, to get back to Nicklaus and his era, Nicklaus was not a great striker of the ball. I don't think he hit the ball any better than me, but he missed it better than me. When I missed it, I was in a bunker. When he missed it, he was on the apron, and that made the difference in our two careers with no doubt. And also, he always projected to big targets, and I always went for the pin. And that's something you have to get over, and if you don't get over, you don't make low numbers. That's all. It's very simple.
Coming up on Inside Golf, our teed-off panel. Bob's a part of it. Now, this was done a couple weeks ago, prior to an announcement just this week by the USGA and the R&A about how they want to ban, eventually, in 4 years, anchoring the belly putter. Some thoughts from our panel on that controversy next, as Inside Golf continues, presented by Susquehanna Bank and Wealth Management.
Takes the nerves out of it to me. And, you know, you're on the 18th hole at the Masters.
It's time light beer got some character. 99 calories, 100% authentic lager. Yingling Light Lager from America's oldest brewery. Rethink your light beer.
Guests of Inside Golf enjoy dining at Sin Sin, the popular Asian fusion restaurant located on Germantown Avenue in the heart of scenic Chestnut Hill.
And now it's time for Teed Off, brought to you by Yingling, America's oldest brewery.
The regular putter is gone, then the game is truly changed.
Welcome back to Inside Golf's Teed Off segment. Today we're at North Hills Country Club at the Founders Room, and our panel includes Harry Mays. Harry is a host, late nights on 97.5 The Fanatic, good sports talk radio with Mr. Mays. Joe Logan is the author of MyPhillyGolf.com and a longtime contributor also to Inside Golf. And Bob Shepard, veteran golf professional, master professional here in the Philadelphia section, gives golf lessons and has his own blog on PhillyBurbs.com. A hot buzz topic lately has been whether the USGA and the R&A and the Pro Tour, somehow I guess they'll get involved in it too, are going to do something about anchored putters, meaning, you know, the long putter that you basically anchor one hand right against your sternum, right?
Right.
And go to work with the pendulum.
Yeah, it's not a stroke.
A lot of people think it's an unfair advantage competition-wise. Your thoughts on how this thing is going to boil down?
This started in the 30s in Boston. I think it was Paul Runyon or somebody. It was a windy day, and he leaned over far enough to stick the putter in his gut, and he putted real well. And nobody said anything, and he did well with the tournament. Then it sort of disappeared, and then through the 50s it came back, and then we had just on and on and on. It kept going, and no one's ever taken it seriously. Now, of late, with Keegan Bradley, he's out winning majors. So he is in a defensive maneuver now, and he's saying, if you can't take that from me because that's going to tarnish my trophy. And you can understand his viewpoint, too. So really, who's at fault? Well, it could be the ruling bodies. They've let it go too long. And to reverse that's going to be difficult. You might go back to the square grooves, and they went after Watson and said, we used the square grooves in the British Open, and there was some heat about that, but that's been washed over too. But this is where the problem is going to be. It's a little late to be doing this, but something should be done. It's a stroke. It's not a guided motion, you know?
Joe, there's a possibility, though, it won't apply to all golf, right? It just may apply to professionals on tour and not to weekend golfers like you and me.
Well, the PGA Tour could certainly do it. They will not. They won't make a policy statement because you got Tim Clark. All these guys are already talking a lawsuit. Right. Tim Clark says, this is how I make my living. I will sue you. The problem, it's not the long putter, it's the belly putter. And the USGA, what they're really afraid of is when young guys like Keegan Bradley start going to the belly putter, flash forward 5 years, 10 years, you could have an entire generation of golfers who have never done anything except they go straight to the belly putter. The regular putter is gone. Then the game is truly changed when everybody is putting like that.
Yeah, but when guys, Harry, are hitting the ball 330 yards routinely, and doing all those, distance things, why are they worried about, what kind of putter they use?
Well, I think because the game does come down to putting at that level. To me, and I think it does provide an advantage to anchor that because it takes the nerves out of it to me. And you're on the 18th hole at the Masters trying to sink a putt to win, and you can anchor your putter in your sternum or your belly or under your arm, wherever they put it. I think that takes a lot of nerves right out of it.
What's it going to mean then for Keegan Bradley? I mean, I'd rather see them get rid of his stare down, the one-eyed jack, than prohibit him from doing this. There's other things they can worry about with Keegan Bradley than the anchored putter, isn't there, Bob? I mean, come on.
Gary McCord said it's like he's sneaking up on a small animal.
Yeah.
That's exactly what
That's
it
true
is.
Too, yeah. Well, it's going to be testy to find. You look at Bernard Langer. I mean, I was at Troon with him on the putting green, and he couldn't even draw the putter back. And then the next thing I know, he had it on his chest, and then he had it on his chin, and he was still stuck. And he was shooting 85 and 90, and he won the Masters the next year. So eventually, when you get this thing going, it's
Didn't he also? He was one of the first guys
Grabbing
to go
his arm.
left hand low.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
That's allowed. I mean, obviously he did it for a reason. To calm his hands down a little bit, right?
And at that same time, Ian Baker Finch stood on the first tee.
He won the majors, the Masters, but he never I guess nobody
functioned again. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't
Well,
really. He wasn't 23 years old winning. the
Right,
majors.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly right. Yeah. That was the same tournament. Ian Baker Finch got on the first tee and he picked it up one inning. He said, I can't even draw the driver back. So at the same tournament, we have two different situations of yips. One of them with a driver. So I don't think you're ever going to see anybody belly driver.
It opened up a whole new career for Ian Baker
It
Finch.
sure did. Yep.
Alan's at the bar, and somebody has a question for Bob Shepard.
Okay, thanks a lot, Harry. We're here with Ryan Hollingsworth. He's a great bartender here at North Hills. Ryan, what is your question for Bob Shepard?
Bob, what's your favorite club in your bag?
Well, we all have trouble on the golf course. So what we got to do is you got to have a rescue ship to come and get you. And my rescue ship has always been the wedge. I think it's the club that's going to do the most good for you. The closer you get to the green, the more important the game becomes. And it's unfortunate we don't spend more time with it. But today's wedges are fabulous. You've got 48, 50, 52, 56
I was going to
degrees,
say,
60
which
degree.
one of those do you like best?
Well, you've got to hone in. And when I was competitive, it used to be three wedges. We had a pitching wedge and a sand wedge, and you doctor the faces to order to the shot. And I thought it was a lot more sane in those days than it is now with the clubs all doing the work for you. But anyhow, make a long story short, if you get a chance to practice your wedge. You really can save a lot of aggravation.
Bobby Shepard is a wedge guy. All right, Shep, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, North Hills. Inside Golf continues with more in just a moment. Planning a wedding, looking for the perfect spot for a golf outing, or maybe you'd like to host a conference with a round of golf to follow. The North Hills staff is ready to book your event for 2013. Go to northhillscc.org. Service, quality, satisfaction await you at North Hills.
Early mornings, late nights, and way too many takeout dinners. Running a business takes energy, determination, and sacrifice. And whether you're a startup, well-established, or somewhere in between, the people of Susquehanna Bank have the knowledge to help you succeed. From cash management solutions to the benefits of local loan decisions, we help keep your business moving ahead. Susquehanna Bank, doing what counts for businesses like yours. Member FDIC.
For more golf course tours, swing tips, and deals on greens fees, check out the new teeitupphilly.com. That's going to do it for this week's edition of Inside Golf. Speaking of books, Bob, you will have one coming out in 2013, and it's called?
If They Hadn't Invented Golf. It'll be available on Amazon.
What would we have done if they hadn't invented golf? You can follow Bob on shepherdgolf.com. He also can be followed on phillyburbs.com. For Bob Shepard, I'm Harry Donahue. Remember, no matter how bad it's going for you out there, don't think too much and don't pick up. We'll see you next time on Inside Golf, presented by Susquehanna Bank and Wealth Management. Inside Golf, presented by Susquehanna Bank. Susquehanna Bank, doing what counts. By Club Champion, better fit, lower scores. Now open in Ballackinwood. By Southwest Greens, the Pro Knows. And by the Philadelphia Section PGA, experts in the game and business of golf.